Blake, who's going to win the Super Bowl this year?
The Taylor Swift Kelseys.
Welcome to the ChurchGear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who no longer knows who the Chiefs are, and I'm here with my co-host who hates them since they're rivals with his Chargers, Toby Walters.
So, Blake, we're recording this on opening day of the NFL season.
Toby, I could weep. I'm so happy.
I know. So you said, 2 weeks ago that you gave your wife your 2 weeks notice to not expect a husband on
Thursday night, Monday night, and Sunday.
Okay.
I still clean the house and do the dishes and do the laundry on the I'll even do them while I'm watching football on my phone, but just I'm not available.
Can she talk to you while a game is on? No.
I need Chris Collinsworth to fill my ear holes with that voice that reminds me of being a 12-year-old child so I can feel young again.
Blake, every time these 64 audio ears fill your ear holes, like you freak out because you don't know how to put them in. So is Chris Collinsworth like easier on your ears?
Ooh, what if we had some Chris Collinsworth inspired 64 audio ears?
That'd be strange. So do you have a real prediction on, because this episode's going to come out sometime during the season. Do you have a prediction at this point who's going to actually win?
I do. And it's wild because they're playing tonight.
Okay.
And it's the Ravens.
The Ravens.
They've got Derrick Henry now. Like,
okay.
That
is
team
he still balling?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing on running back lifespan. They have this down to a science on age. It's probably his last good season.
Yeah.
But between him, Lamar, Mark Andrews, I really think that the Ravens win it this year.
Okay.
Do you have a prediction?
I mean, I'm not as you might imagine yourself, a football guru, an NFL guru. I'm not at all. I'm a Chargers fan. So if that says anything about my football knowledge, I'm just going to assume the Chiefs are going to win again just because they're so dang good.
That's a pretty good assumption as well.
I feel like I have a 50-50 shot that the Chiefs are going to win again.
It's really ironic because the two of them are playing tonight. And one of them probably wins.
Yeah.
Also, it's always been my dream to have a sports podcast. So this is really tickling my fancy.
You're touching your dream a little bit right here.
Just gotten so close.
Now, as a Chargers fan, like I don't think this is our year, but with Justin Herbert like being pretty dang good and like coming into his own, and now we have
the Harbaugh.
Is it? This is how bad I am. Is it Jim or John that we got?
Oh, I don't know. I just know it's Harbaugh.
I think it's Jim Harbaugh.
Kroger or Publix, same thing. I mean,
same thing, except one is twice as expensive.
Yes, well, you can ask the contracts for that. Yeah. I just hope y'all don't waste Herbert because he's had a
Me
lot
too,
of, you know what I mean? Like
yes.
He should be a star, and it's like, please don't tell me, because you know what would be the worst example of a wasted quarterback? Phillip Rivers. This would be hit it twice.
Well, and of course we had what's his face, and then we sent him to the Saints,
to the who's a what's. Derek Carr?
No, Drew Brees.
Drew Brees. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we had him.
You guys are a QB wasting factory.
I know. And I mean, it's all about who you can throw the ball to.
Yes. And the person that I would throw the ball to that also has a Super Bowl prediction herself is the technical and video producer at Hope Fellowship in Frisco, Texas, and the inspiration for the George Lucas movie, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Oh, wait, no, it's Willow. I read the notes wrong. Willow Hodges. Willow Hodge. Welcome to the podcast. Hodges is my last name. It's hard having one letter off.
Hi, guys. So good to be here.
She's like a single name celebrity. That's why she took the S off. She's just Hodge.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you met any other Hodge or Hodges?
I've only met Hodges. I've never met singular Hodge. Just us.
I kind of wonder, was her family running from the law? And they were like, I don't want to change the whole name, so let's just cut off one letter.
I'm going to have to ask about that. Yeah, that's a good prediction.
We could totally be related. And you guys just moved, further west.
For her sake, I hope not.
All right, Willow, who wins the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, man. Sorry to disappoint. I'm not a football fan at all. I'm not a sports person at all. So I actually have no idea, no prediction.
Okay, better
me and
question.
Sports just don't mix.
Could you name more than 5 NFL teams?
Yeah, probably, maybe.
Look at that go.
And so, just so Blake can let out the breath, you have no loyalty to the Dallas Cowboys.
No, I do not. They disappoint us every year.
Yeah,
thank you. I literally bought a Commander shirt this morning before I headed into work. I was like, it's that time.
Yeah, Will is probably like, what are the Commanders?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a good question, honestly. Okay, let's do some 5. Oh wait, you big Taylor Swift girl?
No, I'm not a Taylor Swift girl either. I know. I'm over here disappointing everyone today. No.
Well,
and I do think a little bit her celebrity doppelganger is Taylor.
I was going to say, of all of our guests we've ever had, this is our closest out of 135 guests.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
All right.
Well, let's get to know her. We've known some things she doesn't like. Let's see some things she does on our 5 Truths and a Lie, our weekly game where we get to learn about our guest, and me and Toby try to compete to see which one is the lie.
And who's winning right now? What's her?
I haven't counted intentionally because I was winning at the beginning of the year, and
I don't
think
I'm
it's
winning. I've gotten worse.
I think it's pulling into a tie, though.
Okay.
Number 1, I wrote, directed, and performed my own play in 5th grade.
Okay.
Number 2, I threw out the first pitch at a Rangers game when I was 12.
That would be super cool.
Maybe her play was like a hit, and that was what got her in there.
My sister sang the national anthem at a Padres game one time.
How old was she?
She's like 20.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Number 3, I used to throw birthday parties for all my toys growing up. That's precious.
Having a daughter, I would not be surprised by that at all. Like that's something that Molly would do.
So adorable. Number 4, I was the trumpet soloist in high school marching band. Man, I don't know. Like, I don't know that she looks like a trumpet person.
You got to have like really good lung capacity.
I would have gone percussion. Number 5, my first time shooting, I got all 5 rounds in one hole. What is she shooting?
I would assume like target.
Like at the gun range.
Yeah.
Yeah, a target.
Yeah.
Target.
She lives in Texas. I'm going to lock that in as a truth. Number 6, I've put over 1,000 hours into Fallout 4, which is a video game and also a TV show on Amazon, which was really good.
Okay. Have you ever played the game, Blake?
No, I haven't. Have you?
No.
Okay. The show was fun.
Yeah.
This is tough.
This is
really
a good
tough.
list.
I'm going to say that she did not play trumpet.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Nope.
You already said it. Too
Dang
late.
it. All right.
I'm going to say that she did not write and direct and perform her own play in 5th grade.
Final answers?
Final answers.
The lie is that I did not throw out the first pitch at a Rangers game.
That was my backup too.
Me too.
You know, I thought I gave that away too with the not knowing sports and not being a sporty person, but I still fooled y'all. So,
I mean, you could have been like super honor roll student at your school, and like the prize was you get to throw out the first pitch. You don't have to be good. Like,
Yeah. It's just have to do
you're
something.
right.
yeah.
Interesting.
These logical lies are the hardest ones to get.
Because you and I are just not logical. So what was the play that you made?
Wow. Good question. Very weird story. We had in my history class in 5th grade, we had this stuffed frog that everybody called the magic frog. So we made a play about it. Me and a group of my friends wrote the whole write up and then got to perform it after school one of the days to the kids at the after school program. So pretty fun, but it was about a magic frog.
Does this exist on YouTube anywhere?
No, that's something I regret. We didn't film it. I didn't think of that back then. I was young, but I definitely wish I kept it or something from it. But now,
Blake, I do have literal VHS tapes of me in plays growing up.
Get that to Reese tomorrow. I need this in your task list. You know what? Now that I think about it, I made the joke about you living in Texas, but how on earth did you get all 5 rounds in one hole on your first time shooting?
The guy who I was with, the instructor, even took a photo of it because he's like, "What?" And so he took a photo too. So I don't know. I really just don't know.
What if
Gifted in some ways, I guess.
I mean, that sounds like the skill set that like the CIA is going to start recruiting for. What
Yeah.
if she is undercover as the video director at Hope Fellowship?
Hey,
Could be true.
you called me out.
That actually is a
cut
really
this portion of the podcast.
well. She's
now.
in Texas. That's super believable, but I don't think she would have done the podcast if she was
Yeah.
undercover. That's my guess.
Now I'm totally going on a side trail, but I had a really good friend who got all the way to the last interview to like be an agent with the CIA. And then they started talking about the benefits package. That's a hard word. Yes. Which included a lot of like counseling and recovery. And he's like, why is that? Like, why are you highlighting that? And they said, oh, because the job requirements, like most people end up, divorced or in,
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes, like all that stuff. And he really rethought his decision. He's like, I don't want that life. And so he pulled out. But I was like, man, I'm sure being a secret agent is very isolating. So,
Man, I still just I can't believe you got that many. Do you still shoot? Like, that's kind of wild.
It was one and done. I was done after that. I was like, all right, I already accomplished what I wanted. I'm done.
I think you're missing your calling to be John Wick.
Okay, so besides your proclivity with a rifle, give us a little bit of your tech background. How'd you get your start and what led you to your position today?
Yeah, so I think it kind of goes all the way back to being a kid. So I grew up in a pretty big church in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And even from a young age, I was somebody who was watching and witnessing bigger productions from VBS to weekends. And it kind of spoke like a love language in my heart deep down that I didn't know would be reawakened until obviously I grew up. So went through school. I believe it was my junior year. So I was about 16, 17 at the time when a student pastor had preached a message about using your gifts to glorify the Lord. And I was a band kid. I was a trumpet soloist and I loved band. I loved everything music, but I didn't play any stage instruments. So I was like, okay, what's the next step? Because I love worship. I love this side of the church. How can I get involved? So I happened to go back and ask the worship leader who was at the tech booth, hey, what can I do? And he goes, hey, great thing you asked. We actually need a sound guy because right now I'm having to run back and forth between the stage and the soundboard every Wednesday for student services. At this time, years and years and years ago, we were just very understaffed, didn't have enough volunteers. So I started pushing faders, and it was I went in on a Monday. He taught me very basic gain structure. Still didn't understand it. Started there, and then a few full-time staff members kind of took me under their wing a little bit. Flash forward to 2018. I'm in college at this point, and I went to school for biblical counseling, and I remember telling my counselor, my school counselor, as we were trying to figure out classes, hey, what next steps can I take? I'm trying to figure out graduating. She goes, if you only had a different job, because I'm working retail at the time, she's like, your schedule right now is just super limited. And I was like, man, I wish I worked at the church. That would be a dream come true, because it was always something in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. It was just like, I'm just a volunteer who barely pushes faders, right? That same day when I was in that meeting, I actually got an email saying, hey, we're taking on part-timers just to run classes on weekday nights. So I started there. When I got hired, we also hired our lead worship and production pastor, and he came in and completely changed everything for us. He saw potential where I guess nobody else had. He was the one that kind of threw me into the video world. And I grew up making videos and doing all that stuff with my cousins, like most of us do as kids, exploring the video world. But I didn't know how much I would fall in love with it until I was kind of forced into that environment. So I believe it was 2019 when I got my start in video. And that was quite a difficult journey, coming into a pre-existing culture as a young female who's now being told, hey, guys, she's in charge. And so that was both difficult for me personally as well as technically, because I had to catch up very, very quick. So throughout all that time, again, more full-time staff members kind of took me under their wing and kind of showed me the ropes. And they were like, hey, write down a list of things that you don't know, and let's get you to a place where you know all of these things. I believe the biggest turning point, though, for me was COVID, because we switched to online services, and we were working so close with our pre-production video team. And they were making services. Our camera equipment was just super outdated. We didn't have anybody in the position to really take charge, to build up a team, to kind of say, hey, here's where we want to go. And so I kind of filled that role. And from then on out, it was just kind of like, okay, I'm going to sit in this seat, take charge of this team, build this team up. And because, we shut down for COVID, when we opened our doors back up, it was like starting fresh, starting brand new. We could reset the culture. We could reset the expectations, the vision, everything. And I was grateful to be in that position at that time, because then I was able to really sit in that seat and really take charge. But since then, I've been there, loving it, developing a wonderful team of volunteers, working with some of the best people. But I started at the age of 16, but God was definitely putting it on my heart from way, way earlier, when being exposed to that live production environment, just falling in love with it. There was something like a love language to me.
So you start at 16, and it was kind of like you had a desire to be part of something, but there wasn't really a spot for you on worship. Now you're in the driver's seat, the leader seat, and it's probably a lot of your job to recruit and develop those volunteers. Where do you recruit from? What's sort of your pool that you try and gather from? And then, give us some of the process for you guys at Hope Fellowship and how you develop those people.
Right. So I think our church, one of its strengths is our membership class is kind of a membership and, hey, let's push. If you want to get involved, we have the different areas of ministry. And so we always have somebody that's there. Those are Saturday morning classes, I believe. And we always have somebody, because worship and production and video is all one department. We're like a 17-person team. But we have somebody there that's recruiting for all of us. And just if people come up interested, they're able to ask questions, and then they can get plugged in that way. Another way, something we've had to do recently was go to our student services, and just one person usually travels around to each of our campuses. We have 4 physical campuses. And they're traveling around and kind of doing on-stage recruiting of like, hey, start here, start somewhere, easier. Maybe it's helping with like the kids production department, or even running a camera is great for a lot of people who are newer to the production world. So that's kind of how we're recruiting. And I think even on top of that, we've gotten to a place where people want to be a part of what we've established because our team is so close. We are so tight knit. We do love what we do. And I think people see that and they do want to be a part of it. We've had an influx recently of new interest volunteers. And thankfully, in my eyes, because I believe this is great, they don't have production experience. And so I always am like, great. Most of our people don't have production experience. When I was brought on for the first time and I was given a camera, I literally was given the camera and told, just go find what looks good. And so because that was so stressful for me, I wanted to make sure the way I train and equip volunteers was not that. So our process for kind of training, once we recruit, is I've created just a few easy videos, not super difficult. I created a vision video, which is just, hey, here's our overall vision of what we want our team to look and feel like. And this is what, when you get into when you're a part of our team, this is what you're getting into. The second one is camera basics. It's things from like, hey, here's the camera body. This is what we call it, to here are the different moves we want. Here's like the language we kind of use. Here's what you'll hear on comms, just kind of equipping them for their first week to come in and train. So it's not all brand new information. And then I give them like a generic MXU, like camera framing video. I just throw those 3 resources out at first. I'm like, hey, before you come in, watch these videos. And then I have it's like an email template that I've created where it has like frequently asked questions as well as these videos. Kick that out to them. So then when they come for the first time for their first weekend shadowing, it's not their first time hearing everything or touching, it's their first time touching a camera, but not their first time hearing all the language, hearing what the camera body is called, hearing all these different terms that we use. So when they are then brought on for their first weekend, usually I have them shadow first. So I have them sit in the AVL room, usually with me and the director, unless I'm directing. And we just have them put on a comm headset. I'll give them the grand tour of everything. I have them feel fully a part of the team. I'm like, hey, the green room's also yours now. Like, what's ours is yours. Welcome to the team. And then we have them sit in the AVL room. We have them shadow a service with a comm headset on, have them ask a ton of questions at the end. I'll usually run through a few ones that I've heard multiple times of, hey, people usually ask this. Let me explain this just so you're not completely lost. Then from there, I send out the resources, and then they come back for their first weekend. Their first weekend, I am pairing up with them 30 minutes before we do a run through, and I'm running them through just 3 bullseyes to win. And this is my favorite way to train, especially people who are new to production, is I actually had somebody once say they hate when people say, hey, just be creative, because some of my people just aren't creative, and that's okay. So what I did instead is I was like, let me give you 3 bullseyes to win. If you can get these 3 shots for me today during our run-throughs, then you're solid. From there, we can start adding on 1 or 2 more shots until you feel fully equipped in the camera position that you're in. So from there, then we'll do a run through. I'll ask them, hey, do you want to run a Saturday night service? Usually lower attendance. The stakes aren't as high. It's like, hey, it's okay if you make a mistake. It's not the end of the world. But we'll see if they're ready, they'll run a service. If they're not ready, we'll just say, hey, come back tomorrow morning. We'll do another run through. We'll get you even more equipped and even more prepared. And then from there, it's just more training, adding more bullseyes until they feel that they can fully run a camera without somebody constantly instructing them on what to do.
Blake, as you know, onboarding is such a powerful tool that it's really hard to onboarding, if that makes sense, like to get those tools created. And so just as she's talking about these videos, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I could serve at this. You could serve at this church just having onboarding materials.
I'll definitely say I feel more confident joining this church than any other's volunteer team. I also feel like we just got a masterclass and my hair has been blown back.
I know.
I'm like, send this to everybody.
So I told you this, before the show, that I literally signed up for masterclass today.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
felt like I was watching Willow in a masterclass talking about how to onboard your volunteers.
Yes.
We're going to have to expand all this into a course. So
We need to hire Willow to come teach our courses.
yeah, great. All right, Willow, we've just hired you. You pack your bags. You're coming to Nashville,
Thank you.
to teach every church in America how to onboard their people.
Hang on. One reason why you don't give someone a camera and just say be creative is in high school, my two best friends are 1 year ahead of me. They're in a broadcast class. They're trying to film outside Jason's house for some kind of Christmas shoot. I kid you not, guys. I was like, this is kind of boring. And so I turned the camera upside down. I was like, this is a cool shot.
Of your face?
No, I meant like it was still facing them. They're
It's just upside down.
flipped upside down. I was like, I need to do something cool. That's why you give some direction.
I can't lie. I've had that happen too, where I'm like, hey, this is before things started happening and we started doing the bullseye method. But I had people during student services turn the camera, like start doing these moves. And I'm like, no.
I feel so less dumb now. Thank you, Willow, for sharing that.
That's a big moment for you to feel less dumb. I'm proud of you, Blake.
Look at this. She's teaching well. She's encouraging well. She's doing a great job.
So speaking of less dumb, Blake, is there any moment at ChurchGear where you feel like, people are fully initiated? Is there something they have to go through here?
Typically it's just a meeting with you or I where we're making a bunch of jokes to see if they're cool or not. Can they hang?
Yeah. Willow, do you have any like hazing period?
Whoa. For legal reasons, we need to reword that.
Do you have any
initiations
or hazing rituals?
Just take out the haze. Rituals. Initiation
at Hope
rituals.
Fellowship, where like a volunteer is not a fully fledged volunteer until this happens.
They've graduated. This is when they feel like they've made it.
Yeah. So we don't have, this is more of a fun story. We don't have a typical like, okay, congrats, you're on your own now method, because it's like everybody's still learning. But when awkward things happen on your team and you don't really know how to make light of it sometimes, we use that as our initiation. Like, oh, congrats, you're fully on our team. Some stories I have was one time a girl locked her knees running camera and she fainted on the camera stand and took the camera down with her.
Did she break it?
Yes.
Ooh.
So that was like, hey, obviously we checked on her, but it was like, hey, you're fully on our team now. Like, congratulations, just making light of it. We have a glass door that separates our ABL room from our server room.
Where this is going?
We have tape on it. We have tape on it for a reason, but people still miss it. People have smacked so hard into that glass before. And, after the comforting period's over, it's like, hey, you've made it now. This is it. And then one of my favorite stories, just because of how it was handled, was the way our auditorium is set up is we have our main stage, right? And then on house right is the exit door to get back to the AVL. Well, on the left side, a similar looking door goes to a storage closet that then goes to an emergency exit and goes outside. There's nothing in there. This then taught me I need to give cameras an exit protocol because I had one new volunteer run a camera and she was so nervous. She walked in there. She didn't know how to get out. And instead of texting and asking for help, she stayed in there through the sermon. In the middle of the sermon, she goes, hey, I'm in the storage closet. I don't know what to do. If I go outside, I know this alarm is going to go off. What do I do? Anyway, we ended up being able to get her out effortlessly. But it was, again, one of those moments where I was like, welcome to the team. You've made it. This is it. So we like to take those moments and make them a little more lighthearted, because we've all been there. I've had my moments where I think I'm doing something right and I completely mess something up, and people have been very gracious with me. And so I think it's kind of one of those moments of, hey, we're serious around here and we want excellence, but also we're still human and we're still going to be silly sometimes. So I'd say those are our like initiation moments of welcome to the team.
Blake, how long did it take you to get initiated to the ChurchGear team based on that protocol?
I dropped an amp, like the really sharp, edge of an amp on my foot day 2. And like, it went so deep into my foot, it didn't bleed. It just like got really red. And I didn't want to tell Toby because I didn't want him to like think he'd made a bad hire. And then 2 weeks after that, I hit his house with the back of his van.
Oh my gosh.
Blake, do you feel like we're good sports about your flubs, or, do you just get lit up around here?
Yes to both. Yes to both.
And we have an internal company newsletter, and at the end of every newsletter, I write the newsletter. I write a PS to our, we don't actually have a real, we do have HR representatives, but to our Phantom HR person, who is Toby from The Office, because Toby, the character Toby from The Office, is like the opposite of me. But usually it's just, Blake's latest malfeasance.
It's a tough world, Willow, because basically I can do whatever I want here. I'm invincible. I cannot be fired, but I just have to eat a lot of abuse in exchange. It sounds like she's nice to her people when they mess up.
Of course she is.
Maybe learn from her, Toby.
So speaking of being nice to your people, your title is video and production director. There's no pastor in your title. Does that discourage you from pastoring your people? Does that mean that production people shouldn't pastor their people? Talk to us about pastoring without a title.
Oh my goodness. No, it's not discouraging at all. I'm going to use a different example just because this was kind of something I walked through. I believe maybe we talked about it earlier, maybe we didn't. But I went to school and I got my degree in biblical counseling. So I was fully prepared from my junior year on. I was going to be a counselor, and I got my bachelor's and I went for my master's, and basically it just was not working out. There was a moment I was in Florida for a conference and I was running so behind, so late. I ended up calling my worship and production pastor and talking to him, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can be a counselor. And he again saw something that I wasn't seeing at the time. In terms of like being where I'm at in the production world, he goes, but you do that all the time. It's the same thing. And anyway, I ended up coming back home with like a new perspective. And so now relating it back to the pastoral stance, no, I may not have pastor in my title, and that's completely okay. But I have had plenty of moments where people come in, maybe they just had something hard happen that day with their family, or a crisis just happened and we're having to deal with a volunteer who is very high on emotion, or they're calling in last second because something happened the morning when they're about to walk out the door to come serve. And it's still our responsibility to love and see and meet those people exactly where they're at. There was a moment a few weeks ago. I had a girl that was going through something very, very heavy, and we were about to do our run through, but she needed a hug and cry, like hug somebody and cry. And I was like, absolutely, like you're mine. Like I love you and I care for you. And I'm going to pray for them in that moment, obviously, and like love on them the best that I can. But again, it is the people over just, hey, I just need to get this done. We need to go start run through now. Like people matter. And this is our chance to be pastoral or to be counselors or to be whatever it is, because ultimately at the end of the day, we are still in a ministry of people. We're behind a camera or we're behind a console, but we're still working with people. And so whether or not pastor's in our title, we're still having the opportunity come up again and again where we're able to pastor people and lead them to Christ and love them as Christ would.
That's great. Blake, if you need to hug and cry here at ChurchGear, who are you going to go to?
I'm going to go to Jared, then I'm going to go to Edwin, then I'm going to go to Frank. How long do you think I have to keep going on this list before I get to you? You and I have never hugged in the 5-7 years we've known each other.
See, I didn't grow up in a hugging family. Like,
Is that what it is?
It is weird for me. Like, now I will hug. If people are huggers and they come at me with a hug, I'm like, all right, let's do this. But I feel like from day one, it's kind of like, dog people and cat people, and you just knew, like, I wasn't really a hugger person.
I could tell. Yes,
so,
that's
like,
exactly right.
And you're an aggressive hugger, Blake.
Oh, I want to hug my bro so hard that we almost fall down.
Yeah.
That's how it should go.
And maybe that could be your role in a production team, since you know nothing about production, but you give good hugs.
I could be the encourager. I'll bring you some coffee.
Yeah.
There we
and
go.
you could also, she was talking about going to the youth to recruit. You could be the guy that goes to the youth, stands on stage, and tries to recruit those kids into the production team. I
could try. Side note, I was at youth last night. My boys are 10th grade. They used to be 7th grade. They just keep growing. 10th grade's a weird year because like they were all in the same room with the girls as well. And I was like, some of you still look like you're in 6th grade and some of you look like you're in college football. I mean, that's a weird range.
I know.
Some of them are just unicorns.
Yeah. And I do think of, here at ChurchGear, we have 3 women that work here, and Sarah is probably just the most caring human being at ChurchGear.
And the funniest.
Oh, she is hilarious. But like, she checks in with me on an emotional level that like none of the guys do, just because it's intuitive for her. Like, that's God's gifting. So Willow, you're a bit of a unicorn in the production world, being a woman in what feels like very much a man's world. It feels like more and more women are getting into it, but do you feel like an underdog? And also, like, how do you feel like your unique giftings as a woman benefit your team that they don't have being just a bunch of dudes?
Yeah. It's funny because when I came into it, there wasn't a ton of women in production. Where I'm at now, I think our camera team specifically is now female dominated, which is just such a complete flip from what I've always seen. But no, I don't feel any different or like the underdog necessarily. I do believe both me as well as my male counterparts bring something different to the table, and I'm super, super grateful for that. You brought up your staff member being intuitive. That's one thing that I say that I've seen, like witness with myself as well as some of my volunteers as well. It's kind of like both on an emotional level with, hey, I can tell something's off with that person today, I'm going to go check on them, but also with, this is the right camera shot to do right now. There's the two sides of it. There's the feeling in the moment creatively versus also feeling like something's kind of off with this person. Let me go check on them. I remember when I wasn't super, super new to the team. It was probably about a year in. I had a volunteer who had basically done my job in the past. He's retired, an older gentleman, and he was the one that told me, he goes, some of my best camera ops and directors were women because they were just able to feel things out better than some of the men. And they just know exactly what to look for and what to grab in specific moments. And it turned out he was very much right. A lot of my girls just kind of know, and they don't require as much training necessarily as some of my guys do, which is fine. Again, it varies person to person, but I have found that a little stronger in my females, them just kind of knowing this is what's needed in this moment, as well as the caring aspect as well. Our team is we're a huge community. We are not just separated between services. We're very much involved in each other's lives. And I do think a lot of that is we have a lot of women who just like to talk and bring the guys in on the conversations. And I think it's helped kind of balance out a team where people can feel so individualistic and like, I'm going to go my way after our run through and I'm going to go over here. But now it's kind of like, oh no, we're all coming together as one body. And I think that's been pretty special.
And I do feel like, because at Church of the City, our production director her name is Sarah, and she's amazing. And the camera team and the production team is becoming more and more female dominated there. So I kind of feel like having a woman in a key leadership role gives women permission to, I could run a camera. Yeah, I've always thought that kind of sounded fun, but I always just saw men doing it. So I think it's, maybe that's true or not, whether it kind of gives permission. They see a woman running the show and they're like, dude, let's do this.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. And especially our stage cameras, you see them at the front of the room. And so I think we've had a lot of young volunteers joining as well. And so I think they see, oh, I can do that. If like that student's doing that, then I can too. Same thing for females. They see other females on stage and just killing it. And so they're like, I want to be a part of that. And I think that has brought on a ton of our female camera operators. Because when I joined, there were only 2 or 3. And now I want to say we're at like 10 or 12 somewhere along there, female camera operators. So it's definitely grown.
And you mentioned previously that you have, like, your pastor can come to you with unique questions because of your intuition. Do you remember what you were saying about that?
Oh, yeah. My intuition. Yeah.
As far as like what he's wearing on a Sunday, I remember you telling me about that. He'll come to you with questions.
Goodness.
I thought that was so funny.
Yes. Well, I have a good relationship with our senior pastor. I think that is so funny that you remember that. Yes. There are certain Sundays where he'll be like, hey, can you come here for a second? And he'll hold up 2 different shirts and he's like, which one looks better? Which one's cool? Is this in style? And I just think that's so funny. He's done that with shoes. He's done that with shirts. And whatever I tell him, he's like, all right, that's it. Yep, I'm doing that. Okay, bye. Thank you. And so I always think that's so funny. Very honored, but a very funny little thing that we do.
Well, not only does she have a women's intuition, but also she literally is running the cameras.
Yeah.
So she can help him what's going to look best.
This will look better on screen.
Yes.
Yeah. Blake, do you run your fashion choices by your wife?
No.
I could have guessed that.
Think about it. I wear a ChurchGear shirt most of the days of the week. Otherwise, I'm full fall girly, so I'm just wearing all my orange stuff, so I don't have to ask her questions. She's just like, yeah, get fall.
It's so funny when like 3 times a year you show up for what you deem as like a serious meeting and you're like all done up.
The last time I showed up to a director's meeting wearing pants and a button-up shirt, Frank pulled me aside and he was like, hey, you're not interviewing somewhere in town after this, are you? I was like, all right, I'm not dressing up ever again.
And, my wife has done that for me for years, but now having a teenage daughter, I get it from 2 different.
Is it nice or is it brutal?
Well, it's nice from my wife, but from my teenage daughter, she's like, what are you wearing?
Do they ever disagree?
Not really.
Okay, that's good. That would be really hard if like Shelly was like, that looks great. And your daughter's like, that looks terrible.
I mean, Shelly will be really nice to me. She'll be like, yeah, that's fine.
Oh, that's when you know the fine. You got to go to Molly.
Yeah. But Molly, she'll give me the truth.
Well, and one last thing I'll say about, having Willow in this role is that it opens up your volunteer base. Like now you have 50% more volunteer chances. So I think that's really cool. Training new people, all this stuff, running into glass walls, it kind of runs into disasters. So we'd love to hear that. Toby, that's my worst segue I've ever done. I can't believe you didn't comment.
I thought it was decent.
Really?
Yeah.
Man. So just, tell us a couple moments when everything went wrong, how you handled it, if you had to explain it to leadership afterwards, if you had to barter, hey, I'll give you some advice on this shirt if you forgive my volunteer for this one thing.
Yeah. So this is a story probably early in my career of leadership. And so my boss was putting me in a ton of positions to kind of own things differently. And, he expected some trial and error with certain things. And I think there was the expectation of, if she fails, she's going to learn from it. And so it was a weekend. We had a guest speaker. Let me set the stage a little bit. We were in our older auditorium. Our technology wasn't as great. We were not prepared for what this guest speaker was going to bring. He brought an older laptop adapter. He wanted his slides on the screen the whole time. I was then told, hey, you're the point person, and communicating with him to make sure that he knows when his slides are going to be on the screen, what the expectations are. So I'm like, yes, absolutely. I'm in this role. I'm going to, go communicate with this guy. We go talk. I think we're on the same page about, hey, because at the time we didn't have different auxes to be able to send something separate to online in the campuses versus in-house. Again, this opened up a whole conversation about technology after and what we were capable of. But at the time we were limited. So I'm telling him, hey, because we stream and all of this, I have to cut back and forth between your slides and you. I thought I made that very clear. I did not. And so we get to the live service. I'm just the video producer. So I'm not sitting in the chair directing. This is a very older volunteer. He's directing, I'm in the seat, I'm the point person, and this guy goes up to speak, and he keeps calling us out from the stage. Not only that, he's like, can you please keep that up? Can you please keep that up? And I could tell he was getting frustrated. He was so nice about it, obviously, but I could tell there was that expectation that we were not clear. And this then all falls on me. Not only that, the technology that he brought was a little older, and so our adapter just started not doing so great. And so his slides kept blinking in and out. So not only are we dealing with the slides blinking in and out, but we're also dealing with the expectation of what we're streaming versus what he wanted in the room. And he's frustrated. Everybody comes in the video room. And then I'm the one getting talked to by everybody. I mean, we had all full-time production staff in there. Our boss, I think one of the campus pastors was in there as well. And it all fell on my shoulders. And I'm new to all this leadership role stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do in this position. I was freaking out. Luckily, everybody was so nice about it. But it was kind of one of those moments where I kind of had to feel the pressure of it a little bit. And then also the awkwardness afterwards of feeling like there was this weird tension between the guest speaker and then the production, because we thought we were on the same page and we definitely were not. So I think that was one of the biggest things that went wrong that I had to learn from. And so my boss was then like, okay, how you're going to learn from this? Obviously we need to talk about gear after that. But then he's like, go talk to the guest speaker, go make it right. Go talk to then the campus pastor, explain what happened. It was a good opportunity for me to kind of be in that position to where I had to own up for the lack of communication. And I also had to figure out how to move forward where everybody could win. So I learned a lot from that. It's funny now. We bring it up all the time. We're like, hey, we don't want that to happen again. Go test our converters. Go test, whatever it is. We just want to make sure that doesn't happen again. And then another story, very short. Again, this was at the beginning of my time on staff. I had one role in the video room was to make sure service got recorded. And I will never forget, I pulled the drive and I went to go plug it in and it recorded 3 seconds of service. And I panicked and I went in the server room and I'm just like sitting there, like my eyes are like, I'm in the dark, by the way. I'm like, my eyes are getting moist. I'm a little, upset about the one job I failed. And then somebody walked in, they're like, are you okay? I'm so sorry. And so it was awkward because then they catch me crying in the video room about recording 3 seconds of service. Anyway, we have processes so this stuff doesn't happen again, but definitely a good learning moment just to make sure we're crossing off things on our checklist and making sure things get done.
Brutal.
Blake, we said clarity is kindness. She did her job. She did 3 seconds of her job. Said record the service. She recorded 3 seconds of it. Nobody said record the whole service, just the service. See?
What year did you start there?
2018.
When did you get
or 2019 in the video room?
The video room. When did you get promoted to what you're doing now?
So I went full-time last February, but that's when I got my title. But I've been doing what I'm doing now since 2019.
Nice. It's really cool that she came in because you were, majoring in biblical studies and you're like, oh, I'll just have to figure all this out. Maybe that's why she has such good volunteer empathy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. She learned to be a pastor and a counselor before learning the technical side. It's always the other way around.
Oh.
Where'd you go, Willow?
This is so ironic.
Oh, wow.
As the tech stops working. We can still hear you, though. So
it's a black screen.
Yeah, give me a second.
What if Willow has been AI this whole time and it
amazing.
stopped outputting the video part?
Yep.
Because we could still hear her, but there she is.
My not good camera now.
It's fine.
It seems like my battery died for my camera, so
Yep.
we're going to have to switch over to the FaceTime camera.
It was longer than 3 seconds, though. So
there we go.
Hey, that's great. Yeah.
Okay, so what would be a tech takeaway you would wrap us up with, just to make everyone's Sunday morning better? You've already given us so much. I feel greedy, but hey, we always ask for one at the end.
Yeah. So I know I was advised not to talk about relationship. No, I'm kidding. No, my key takeaway is so when I came into production, I thought everything was so serious. And that scared me out of my mind so much because of all these mistakes I was making. We want excellence. I tell my people that all the time. We strive for excellence. But at the end of the day, it's not as serious as we make it up to be in our minds sometimes, especially as somebody who struggles with perfectionism and wanting to make sure everything is just as perfect as possible. And I want the service to run smooth. Everybody wants the service to run smooth. There's an expectation for it too. But if and when things go wrong, we're mentally beating ourselves up. I don't think that's what Jesus would want. I don't think that's what our bosses would want. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. At the end of the day, it's really not that serious. You're not going to talk to God and he's going to be like, I'm really disappointed you recorded 3 seconds of the service. Really? No, that's not what it's about. At the end of the day, it is about our hearts. And if we're doing what we're doing to honor the Lord, and especially when our people are new and they make mistakes, I'm like, hey, yes, we want an excellent service, but you're going to mess up. I'm going to mess up, and it's okay. You're in a safe place to mess up. And creating an environment that is safe is crucial for not only recruiting volunteers, but keeping them as well. If I don't feel safe, I'm not going to stay. And that was kind of the priority when bringing in new volunteers and having them stick around, is if they're not in a safe environment, I wouldn't want to be a part of it. So why are they going to want to be a part of it? So just making sure that we're creating and cultivating environments that are safe, because they should be. They shouldn't be terrifying environments to walk into. You can be excellent, but also a safe environment to make mistakes.
If only I had that safe environment. I'm so envious. Willow, do you want to plug anything?
Social media?
Sure.
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at Willow Presley. I post reels of directing there. That is the only social media I'm really active on. So that is my only plug.
Nice. The Presley is that is connection to Elvis there?
I wish, but no. That's just my middle name, and my mom thought it was cool. And I think it's cool too.
Nice. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Hey listeners, we're introducing a segment called Church Tech Confessionals. This is a time for any church tech to anonymously confess the worst thing they've ever done in church production. Here's one now.
I was producing one of our services, and our video booth, where we would have the director and everything, was next to our recording studio. And for whatever reason, we captured our Saturday night service, and it would broadcast on Sunday mornings. And we had this pastor, who will go unnamed, who I would call, he would get really intense from the stage, and he'd be talking. And he would do this move on stage that I called the power squat, which he would get down low. I mean, like, beautiful squat form all the way down. And what would happen is I would have to prep our camera guys. Okay, get ready here. I can see it. Here comes the power squat. And so, unfortunately, the same audio that was being recorded from stage was being recorded in the booth next door, and the doors were open. And so the team got a hoot out of the power squat moments. And you could just hear me in the background, ever so slightly, in that Sunday morning recording at one of our campuses saying, okay, here comes the power squat. And the whole church congregation heard, here comes the power squat. And sure enough, he would get down low, get really intense, really quiet, and then come out of it and keep preaching. But I was calling out power squats for the video recording at our campuses.
Hey, if you have your own 3 to 5 minute church tech confessional, record it and email it to blake@churchgear.com. Don't worry, we'll apply a voice changer and keep it anonymous. Your secret is safe with us. Your pastor will never know.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the ChurchGear Studios.
All right, Blake, creating a safe environment where volunteers feel like they can make mistakes and not be berated for them. Blake, I feel like I've created the safest environment on the planet here at ChurchGear because that's all you do.
I would just tell production people to do the opposite of what Toby does, and it'll be a very safe place.
You said you are... What? You can't be killed here?
I'm invincible. I'm Lazarus.
Yeah. So wouldn't this be the safest environment possible? I mean, I can't even...
Okay, all right, you ready? You seen Deadpool? You know how he always regenerates? He always regenerates, but he still gets shot all the time? That's me. So send this episode to the Deadpool in your life, the person that you mess with all the time, but they always regenerate.
Wow, this one's ending dark. All right.